everyone. Welcome back to On the Right podcast here from the America First Warehouse on Long Island, and we're beaming out everywhere through Video Land, and anyone from California to Maine who are watching this show, we welcome you. I'm Steve Levy. I'm your regular co-host. We meet here live every Wednesday at 2 o'clock. I'm the former Suffolk County Executive, New York State Assemblyman, and presently the Executive Director of the Center for Cost-Effective Government. I'm also Newsmax Insider and write a number of periodicals. My normal co-host is David Zare from Real America Voice. He's on assignment this week down in the White House, and he will hopefully be chiming in with us at some point during our broadcast here today. But I really want to get David because he was in the midst of everything happening with the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk in Utah. He's going to be at the funeral, the wake and the funeral on Sunday, and he's been doing a lot of interviews with White House staff, and he was a real he had his nose to the grindstone with what was going on with that whole Turning Point movement. So we'll hear from David in a little bit, but let's talk about this. It's really, really tragic, and I just wrote an article that was published.
Can you hear me?
Oh, David's
here.
with us. Hey, Dave, hold on one second, because I'm just giving some preliminary info to the folks here that I wrote an article about the aftermath of the shooting. And I noted how I thought that the Utah governor's response was appropriate. It was unifying, and it was actually quite presidential to a certain extent.
He's a wimp.
I knew you were going to say he's a wimp. I don't know if you're coming in my ear, David. I'm not sure you're coming across to the studio here. So can we hear? Okay, so you're on audio, David. So you don't have to worry about brushing your hair today. Okay, but I want to say from there, I thought there was a time to be unifying, but okay, once the dust settles, we really have to get into an honest conversation about what's going on in America. And I'm sorry to all the liberal pundits in the media, it's not a 50-50 proposition here. There has been a pattern on the left of these insidious, violent acts. And yes, there are some on the right, here and there, you can pick them out. But the difference, David, is on the left, what you have now is organized violence, well-funded, organized violence. It's not sporadic, haphazard. And that's what we have to focus on. You know, we had on the right, we had the KKK that was organized violence. In the 60s, you had it on the left, from the Weather Underground to the Black Panthers to the FLAN, who were blowing up buildings, to the New World Liberation group, a Marxist group. They were well-funded, they were organized, they plotted destruction. You see that now with Antifa. This is the new Weather Underground, Antifa. What did we do to crack the KKK? What did we do to crack the Weather Underground? There were movies about this. The FBI infiltrated them. They treated them as terrorist organizations, and that's why I think Stephen Miller and Bannon and others are correct. It's time to classify Antifa as a terrorist organization so we get the word out to George Soros and all the other nefarious benefactors of many of these left-wing crazy groups that if you continue to give money to terrorist organizations, you're going to be liable, not only civilly, but criminally. And that's not an attack on free speech. That's cracking the organized, violent organizations like the Weather Underground, like the KKK, and like Antifa. Your thoughts, David? What are you seeing there on the ground? Can you hear us, Dave? Well, we see your lovely photo there but we lost your audio. So at one point we had your audio and not your picture, then we had your picture and not your audio. But let me expound upon this, because it was absolutely atrocious to see so much of the left-wing media trying to deny that there was a motive here, that there was anything left-wing about it. You had your normal crazies from Jimmy Kimmel to Jamal Hill and even Lawrence Tribe, a Harvard professor, coming out immediately and saying,
guys hear me?
he's MAGA, he's MAGA. And it's quite obvious that this individual was motivated by left-wing propaganda, puts on his bullet case, catch this fascist or something along those lines. Those are the terms of Antifa, which ironically is supposed to be anti-fascist, and they are the fascist. But anyway, David, it looks like we have your pretty pearly whites back with us. Can we hear you as well? Are you with us?
Copy 1, 2, 3. Yes, sir.
Okay, we got you. So what are you seeing down there? What's your reaction to this horrific historical event, the assassination of Charlie Kirk?
Well, I worked with Charlie here and there over 5 years. I met him first about 8, 10 years ago. I co-hosted TPUSA Faith for the network 2 years in a row, I believe. I've been to many Turning Point events. He's a gem. And what happened is really I don't know if he's replaceable, but we covered with the War Room on Sunday night a vigil at the Kennedy Center down here in D.C., and it was really very special because it's like a wake is for the living, right? And I'll be heading out to Phoenix on Saturday for the Sunday memorial. The stadium holds 70,000. I don't know how many people are expected. But it's a celebration of life, right? Mm-hmm. And I think his legacy will be like I heard somebody say the other day, I hope 10,000 Charlie Kirks emerge. It's probably what's going to happen.
Well, that's what his wife Erica said, so defiantly, so beautifully, so heartfelt. You think you snuffed out his voice? You don't know what you've done. You've opened up a Pandora's box for people. And I was amazed, David, not only people here in the States, England, New Zealand, in Eastern Europe, all over the world. I don't know if they were enamored by his preaching for conservative values, for free speech, or for faith, but it was a combination, and he touched the world.
Well, TPUSA is a worldwide movement, and not only have there been 32,000 new requests for new chapters since his death in the United States between high schools and colleges, but he was the best and likable because he believed in civil debate. I was just at an anti-Israel protest across the street from the White House 10 minutes ago. And they're animals. They don't want to talk. They were yelling at me for filming them. And I'm like, you're in front of the White House blasting bullhorns, but you don't want the media to cover you unless they're left-wing Al Jazeera, right? So, they were really rotten. So, but Charlie wanted civil debate. I engaged the leader of this protest in civil debate. I don't think she wanted to do that, but that's what we have to do. And my point is that I think the world followed Charlie because he was a really good guy, and most of the world's Christian. A good guy
and very effective. I think the reason that the left hated him so much is that he was so damn good. In that, people who were like independent or like on the fence or weren't involved, they'd look at one of his videos and say, wow, number one, this guy boils it down. He's making sense. And he's so brave in going into the lion's den that if he can do it, I can do it. I used to feel shy about speaking up in class or on the campus, but now I'm going to speak out. And then you saw another and another and another. And thousands of people said, thank you, Charlie, for giving us the strength so we're no longer cowering in the corner to the crazy leftists who want to do us harm physically for speaking out. We're going to band together and speak our truth.
Yeah, and he didn't have any college, you know. And when
Right.
I was 16, I started a Young Americans of Freedom chapter. We used to go to Stony Brook University, Suffolk Community Colleges, other campuses, and argue with the libs, and, you know. And this is an old thing that's been going on in America for like 60 years, right? And probably since our birth. But nobody was better at it than Charlie, and he had, you know, thousands and thousands of chapters around the country. And he said college is a scam. He wrote the book College is a Scam, and you know, he said don't send you know, your kids to the left wing garbage. You know,
Well,
don't send them into the
y-
indoctrination camp.
I think college is still a good thing to have if that's your path. I mean, if you want to do a trade, that's good too. But what Charlie was saying is, don't think you have to go to college just because your parents are telling you or that's what others are expecting of you. If you want to follow a different path, you can. And you know,
Yeah.
he gave inspiration to so many people in that regard. And I want to continue in the next segment on the whole concept of free speech and what it meant to him and the world. And we'll get into the little controversy that came about from our Attorney General with some of her remarks. And then let's also get into, still with that North Carolina stabbing of that young woman on the train. It's almost been forgotten, like it's been months ago, but there's important things to still be talking about in regard to that. So stay with us, folks. See us in a couple of minutes, and we're back with David Zaire, Steve Levy here on The Right Side.
Who broke the television?
Can we laugh at that? Sounds to me.
As of this month, public gay sex will now be mandatory.
Am I the only one that could see his lips move?
Cheekbones, baby.
Sorry, maybe I overreacted.
Corporate transfer, fine professional, moving and storage, and inventory management.
Hey, fellow patriots, it's Cindy Gross here, host of Right for America from your favorite place, the America First Warehouse. You've seen me show on my show so many products from this country's #1 most patriotic manufacturer with close to 400 products. You need to exchange the products you use in your house to this company and make your dollars count in our country.
Freddie Rubino here at the America First Warehouse. I'm inviting you to the live taping of the Not So Newlywed Show. Just click on the QR code right above my shoulder and you can get tickets. Live taping of the Not So Newlywed Show. Drinks, snacks, it's a great time. We'll see you there October 18th.
It's me, Joe the Box, the America First Warehouse, most patriotic venue in all the land.
The America First Warehouse, a beacon for all to see, a symbol of unity. For the patriots of America, we stand tall and free. In the America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
Hey, folks, welcome back to On the Right Side podcast. here at the America First Warehouse every Tuesday live at 2 p.m. And I'm here with David Zare, who's remote from Washington, D.C. And before I get back to David, we've got to thank our host, Joe the Box, who is an amazing man who built this warehouse from scratch. He's got this amazing moving company, and he had a spare warehouse. And through his own dollars, made this into a museum for patriots. And if you're ever on Long Island, as we say on Long Island, you've got to pass by here. Amazing events with worldwide people. David is here interviewing people from Kellyanne Conway to, we were supposed to have Steve Bannon here and Peter Navarro last week, but because of the Charlie Kirk incident, that was postponed. But you got to pay attention to what's going on here. Go to the website at the First America Warehouse, America First Warehouse, .com, and see what we're all about. So, David, welcome back. We were talking about the legacy of Charlie Kirk and that he was all about free speech. And I think it's incumbent upon us as conservatives just to set the record straight. You know, Pam Bondi, who I think is doing a wonderful job as Attorney General. I'm so glad she's in there. I think she's smart. I think she's on the right side of the issues. I think she made a faux pas yesterday, you know, just talking off the cuff on a podcast where she made a point that, you know, hate speech is not going to be tolerated and, you know, we're going to go after it. And thankfully, she pulled that back. But, you know, conservatives from throughout the country say, no, that's not what we stand for. That's what the left, that's what Biden, that's what his minions have been pushing for the last 4 years to just try to quash your speech by claiming in their subjective determination it's hateful. And it was Charlie Kirk who was saying, no way, baby, you don't get to define what is proper speech or not proper speech. Elon Musk did the same, saved the day for us when we were getting deplatformed from Twitter because the liberals who controlled it didn't like our content. He opened it up. Charlie was opening up things. So, Pam Bondi, I think you're doing a great job. We love having you there, but we're glad you backed off of that because we conservatives do not want others policing what is hate speech or what is not. They're doing that in England now where 30 people a day are being arrested for speech that the government doesn't like. We have something called the First Amendment. That's what makes this country so great. And it's really been the right, and we're from on the right side here, who have been defenders of that First Amendment and free speech. Your thoughts, David?
Well, I mean, if they tell you they're coming over your house at 8 o'clock and they're going to kill your wife and your children,
that's different.
You know,
that's different.
That's a little different.
Different.
But listen, I just tried to engage this pro-Palestinian woman, but she was a professional agitator. You know, I was at the White House all this week, and you know, I went outside to take a little break. There's nothing going on there because you know what's going on in England with you know the press corps, and our chief White House correspondent Brian Glenn is over there, and I cover the White House when he's out of town, or you know, and so most of the time Trump is here and Brian can't be there. But she didn't want to debate with me.
No.
They're incapable of it. I was being Charlie-esque, and I was like, well, tell me why you're out here. Or what media are you with? You know, and then I was like, I'm with Dave Zare, Real America's Voice. So then they're taking my picture. They're probably going to dox me and be outside my house when I get home in New York because they're evil.
Now that, of course, is
These
over the
people are
line.
evil.
Those people should be arrested.
They're evil. They were playing bullhorns at a decibel level about 160, definitely damaging the hearing. And the Secret Service was out there. I was interacting with them this afternoon, and they were telling me DC police or Metro Police won't do anything about it, and it's their jurisdiction because it's right outside the White House property.
Well, I mean, they do have the right to protest with a bullhorn. They can't dox you, though, and say, we're coming to your house to hurt you and your family, you know.
They had police sirens blaring out of 8 bullhorns on the road. I'm going to share footage of it on
okay.
Breaking
It
Point.
might be a disturbance to the peace.
Damaging. My ears hurt.
Okay.
I covered 150 Trump events with, you know, sometimes up to 100,000 people.
Right.
And that's loud, like an F-16 turbojet is behind you blasting,
Wow.
you know, with its afterburners. And you come out of a Trump rally and you're deaf.
Mm-hmm.
This was worse. and my eardrums hurt. And I think it's harmful to the Secret Service. And I am so shocked that they're not allowed to shut these protests down, at least have the bullhorns turned off. And they were going for about 2 hours and full blast. I'm sure if Trump was here and those sirens were blaring out of those bullhorns, he would have made them take action.
It's a
whether
tough
it was
one. It's a
constitutional
really
or not,
tough one because you can't stop them for the content of this speech. You can't, they do have the right there are decibel limits everywhere. There's no question about that.
Well,
it's
obviously
really
in DC,
tough.
There isn't until 8:30 at night. And
Yeah.
It's very sad because definitely it was damaging people's hearing down there. And
Maybe
but this
that's the
woman
new
didn't want to
tactic.
debate.
Yeah.
She didn't want to debate, Steve. She, I said, well, wouldn't the whole conflict end if they just released the hostages? She said, what about the settlements? I said, well, that's a broader issue. Tell me.
Dave, wasn't it amazing? Did you see the Emmys? You see I had to watch it because I wanted to
know
see
the
what kind of
story, but
political.
I don't watch
flipped
them.
through. Be honest with you, 90% of those shows I never saw. It used to be you had ABC, NBC, and CBS, and you knew the shows, you knew the actors, the actresses. I don't know half of them with all the cable shows that we have right now, right? But I was watching it just to see what the tone was going to be. And for the most part, it's fairly apolitical, which was unusual. Even Colbert, who they gave the award to for obviously political reasons, he didn't have a very political speech, which shocked me. But here was this young woman, Ebersol, who's the daughter of Saturday Night Live original Lorraine Newman. She's Jewish, David. She's Jewish. And she gets up there and she says, "Free Palestine." It's like, what an idiot. And you had mentioned, a little earlier that, Al Jazeera put her on TV. Oh, look, she's one of us, right? And they had to blur her, right?
They blurred out her skin.
Yeah, her cleavage. She had cleavage.
In the Muslim world.
I wish someone would just get up there and say, hey, to our audience, which is a large percentage of gay people in that audience, and you're sitting there with your partners, and you're clapping like seals as this moron is saying free Palestine, a Jewish woman, right, who they would murder, on October 7th. But the gay people, I mean, just one person get up there and say, hey, by the way, to our gay friends out here, go into Gaza and walk hand in hand with your lover and see what happens to you. They'll freaking murder you, okay? Go to Israel and you'll be treated with respect and tolerance. But this is the upside world we're living in, David Zaire.
Well, there's a myth out there that Israel, doesn't give the Palestinians representation. The Knesset, more Palestinians work in Israel than the rest of the world combined, I believe.
25% of Israel is Arabs.
Yeah, and the other Arab nations, like Syria and Jordan and Egypt, they were offered Gaza. They didn't want it.
And by the way, David, those 25% Arabs in Israel, they could leave anytime they want. They don't want to go to the other Arab nations. They like the way they're treated in Israel. Doesn't that say something?
Well, yeah, I got to go back, Steve, to the protest that was just at. I was like fearing for my family's life in a way because I know how evil these people are. Yep. They were like, Google me. What's that Google image? They're Googling me. They want to know who I am. And they're probably looking up my home address right now. They're very evil. They're very evil. These aren't normal people you're dealing with.
This is why I said earlier, you can't have the government spying on groups that only because they have a different opinion. That's what Biden, we just found out now through the FBI, that Biden was doing that to Charlie Kirk and Turning Point. But there was no evidence that Turning Point was a violent organization. But we do have violent organizations established right now, and Antifa is at the core. And you have, these billionaires in China who are doing the bidding of the Chinese Communist Party, funding these chaos, anarchistic organizations. That's where you need the FBI to infiltrate, just like we did with the KKK.
Steve, anytime the America First Warehouse had an assembly on a street corner or a train station, sometimes 20, 30,000 people, like at Eisenhower Park, tried to get in, and then the Democratic county executive closes the entrance off so nobody can come in. But, there's nobody coordinating that and directing the traffic and the people and what they're supposed to. This girl was going back and forth to the dozen or so pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel protesters and telling them what to say, where to stand, what to do. These are professionals.
They're paid.
These are professional agitators.
Which is not illegal to pay someone to protest, but it is illegal when you pay them to promote violence. And that's where you go over the line. It's a fine line, we have to say, but we've gone over that line many, many times in this country. Not we, but the left specifically, in an organized effort, have been going over that line, and that's where you need the government to step in. Not to police opinions we disagree with, but to police those who are intent on overthrowing the country. And that's what these crazies are trying to do. Not all of them, but certain select groups. Right?
Yeah.
So
I agree 100%.
On the flip side here, David, it seems since the Charlie Kirk assassination that everyone stopped talking about that heinous murder of the young woman in North Carolina, the Ukrainian immigrant. But I want us to get back into it because it really is important to note how this happened, how the Democratic leftist establishment allowed this monster to stay out on the street after 14 arrests. So stay with us, folks. We're here with on the right side with Steve Levy and David Zaire, and we're going to see you in 2 minutes to talk about that and other hot topics of the day. Stay with us.
Corrupt judges, broken families, families torn apart. This isn't justice. If you've been wronged by the system, join us. Don't stand alone. Hi, I'm Gary Jacobs, president of Americans for Legal Reform. We're the oldest legal reform group in the United States. The justice system in the United States should be transparent, fair, and open to everybody and accessible. Unfortunately, reform, we are here to help. Join the movement. Visit AmericansForLegalReform.com and help reform the system before it fails you.
My name is Elena Ruseva, aka Megalangela. Please check my art at www.megalangela.vip.
The America First Warehouse Ultra MAGA Store for all your MAGA needs. We sell t-shirts, tumblers, flags, hats, sneakers, bumper stickers, and a whole lot more. The most patriotic America First retail store. The America First Warehouse Ultra MAGA Store.
The Queens Village Republican Club is America's oldest Republican club, founded in 1875. Situated in President Trump's hometown in Queens, New York, we are America First MAGA Republicans, empowering fellow Republicans to get involved in the game of politics at the grassroots level. We host inspiring monthly club meetings on the first Thursday of each month at 8 p.m. For more information, please go to our website at www.qvgop.org.
It's Tuesday here at the America First Warehouse. I am Joe the Box.
And I'm John the Blanket. Freddie Rubino here with my podcast. That's what I'm talking about. Coming to you live from the most patriotic venue in the land.
Welcome to Right for America.
I'm James Justice. We got Stephen Ruth over here. What are we doing, Steve? Fighting!
Welcome to Tune In Tuesday of the Patriots Podcast, live streaming every Tuesday night at 7:30.
Another edition of On the Right Side here, and you can catch us weekly, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
And welcome to Liberty's Cage, where we rip the veil off America's broken justice system. Prisons that crush spirits and a society that shuns people who have paid their price.
Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Kevin Downey Jr. Podcast. Be free, stay free.
Welcome to Suffocating in Suburbia with me, your host, Stevie GB.
Hey, folks. Steve Levy here. Welcome back to the On the Right Side podcast, coming to you from the America First Warehouse here in Long Island. David is back. We had David Zare from Real America Voice here and not there. He is back. Thank goodness for that. So we teased you at the end of the last segment that we wanted to touch upon something that's been forgotten about really in the last week because so much attention has rightfully been on the horrific assassination of Charlie Kirk. But remember, right before that, everyone was abuzz about the senseless, heinous attack, the murder of that young Ukrainian immigrant on a North Carolina train. She's minding her own business. This crazy man is sitting behind her and just out of nowhere stabs her to death. And, you know, again, the left-wing media covers up for the fact that this cretin had been arrested 14 prior times. And there really has to there has to be, David, an awakening, just like we were talking with the Charlie Kirk situation. There has to be an awakening in this country that there's this violence on the left that is being perpetrated by these organized efforts. There is a breakdown of a society permeated by the progressives on the left. And just to give you a little rundown here of how their policies eventually led to the death of this young woman, right? First of all, the mental institutions that were commonplace in the 70s and 80s, in a bipartisan fashion, I must say, they were closed down. Okay, Reagan was part of it, Mario Cuomo was part of it, and they said, we're going to be more humane because Geraldo Rivera went into Willowbrook and said, these are terrible conditions. So instead of improving the conditions, they just shut the places down. They let out all these emotionally disturbed people and said, oh, we're going to set up these support services in communities and it'll help them and we'll put them on their meds, et cetera. What happened? Homelessness exploded. You had the mentally ill on the street, could not care for themselves. Many of them were injecting. And the complexion of our cities totally were turned upside down. And for the last several decades, it's been Republicans like Giuliani saying, you got to get people off the street who are addicts, who are mentally ill. And it's been the Democrats saying, no, that's their civil right. So the cities have been destroyed. But then on top of that, you had Democrats saying, let's defund the police, and they did. They put in all these progressive reforms saying, let's have cashless bail, which they did. They said, let's raise the age upon which we can start prosecuting murderers, which they did. Now you can be in some states up to 25 and be treated as a minor. It's absolutely ludicrous. In New York, they put in all these crazy discovery requirements that now lead to people not even being charged because it's too onerous from a regulatory perspective. The Democrats caused this. You have... there was a study in Europe about a decade ago that said about 65% of the crime is committed by, get this, David Zare, 1% of the population. Giuliani understood you put that 1% violent crew in jail, as they did in the 90s and the early 2000s, crime plummets. But then the progressives came in, let them out in COVID. They say right on their websites, the Democratic Socialists, the Black Lives Matter, we want to close prisons. What happens? The crazies like this guy who murdered this young lady get out and they do their harm. Am I wrong, David Zare?
No, you're not. I was one of the first people, if not the only person on the campaign to ask Trump what he was going to do to fix crime in New York and D.C. and Baltimore. I also covered Trump about a year and a week ago in Charlotte. And it was the day the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, endorsed Donald Trump. I was on the campaign trail and I said on the air, because every blue city we went to in the country has triple the crime as the rest of the state, right, Steve? So I said, Charlotte has 11 or so Democratic city council members, no Republicans. Murder was up 37% at that point, year to date. And that's what's going on in Asheville. The homeless, the drugs, the defund the police, the transients, the crime. It was terrible. It was awful.
Wasn't it
Fayetteville,
disgusting to hear that mayor of North Carolina, in that city, Charlotte, after this murder, excusing this cretin, claiming he's the victim, he's been failed by society, and her remarks were along the lines of, you can't arrest your way out of this. Ma'am,
How about
you
the
can.
fact that the magistrate who let him go was not a licensed lawyer? You don't have to be a lawyer to be a judge down there and release violent felons back onto the street. But my point of that was that, we've been calling attention to Blue City crime for a long time. And Trump's the only one who's doing something about it. He's the only one.
Yeah.
And now look at Albuquerque. I'm in Albuquerque last year. It was like September, right before the election. 6th most dangerous city, I think, in the country. Now the county north of Albuquerque, the county executive is Democrat. Albuquerque is all Democrat, congressman, governor, town council, you name it. But that county that borders Colorado, it skips I forget the name right now, but they're asking for Trump's help.
And by the way, kudos to the president. He's going to send the National Guard to Memphis, which I think was number one, maybe right up there with Albuquerque as far as violent crimes per person.
Worse than Albuquerque.
Yeah, it is. Now, the left will come back to, oh, you see, it's a red state. It's not the fact that it's a red state. It's a blue city. It's the cities. 50 of the highest crime, 47 of the 50 highest crime cities are run by Democratic mayors and Democratic legislatures.
So, they have the RNC in Milwaukee last year, second highest poverty rate in the United States for a major city. And then I'm in Rochester, Minnesota. I fly in a year and a half ago. I go drive 2 hours into Bucolic, Mississippi River, Black River, Lafayette River, all meet, never touched by the glaciers, beautiful country. You go into the Republican part of Wisconsin and all surrounding La Crosse. But when you go into La Crosse, Wisconsin, Democratic sheriff, Democratic county executive, Democratic congressman, Democratic city councilor, everybody's Democrat. High fentanyl, high deaths, high poverty, high crime rate, high property crime, high violent crime. And that's the way it goes in all of these areas across the country.
And
once you hit the blue cities, it sucks.
And the other twist, and the other twist to this is even when you get a mayor and a police commissioner who is willing to put these hardcore violent creeps in jail, the kind who stabbed this young lady, you have the George Soros-backed DAs who let them out. So without the prosecution against the violent criminals, all of that hard work is for naught. So this is systematic here. This is really systematic. And I'm hoping that in the future that voters will look to see, is this district attorney candidate supported in any way by George Soros or his minions? But you know what, David? Even if we tell them that, they know it right now with Alvin Bragg in New York. The knuckleheads in New York City, they're going to vote Bragg back in anyway, right? It's like...
No, and the number of people prosecuted for violent crimes in New York City is almost in single digits, the percentage. And then when he was in office, I think only 7% of the violent crimes got prosecuted. And then Mario Cuomo in March of 2019 signed bail reform.
Andrew Cuomo.
There's been over 5,000 crimes related to the bail reform, including murder, from people who got out of jail who should be in jail.
And then you saw how poorly that worked. And then you see progressives in other part of the country saying, hey, yeah, let's do that too. It's just, again, I think people have to understand where Marxism comes into this. And you might think I'm crazy. What are you talking about with Marxism? Marxism is preaching the belief through critical race theory with this new generation of leaders we have that incarceration is racist, okay? That they look at the perpetrators as being the victims of a racist society. So
Class warfare.
Right. It's the white patriarchy who is the police department, even though most of your police departments now in the inner cities, they're majority black. or majority minority individuals in the force. The mayors are black, the police commissioners are black, but they still say that's part of the white establishment, and the violent criminals are the victims of it, so let them out. That's their mindset.
Yeah, Steve, I covered the ICE protests in the city, and I got some incredible footage of the police cracking down on the protesters. About 20% of them were very violent, right? But when you looked in the crowd, there were no Hispanics protesting ICE. It was all white girls from Suffolk County,
And you know what happened? You're absolutely right. And privileged white girls. And you know what happened in L.A. after the attacks on ICE? They've all been let off. They've been let off. The prosecutors or the judges are saying, we are not going to prosecute these people because they're on our side. Just like the Hamas prosecutors, the Hamas violent offenders in Colombia and in the streets of New York City.
Yeah, last year I hosted the black pastors from Chicago and Richmond, Virginia, and Tulsa, Oklahoma. And David Lowery, I had him on the show 2 weeks ago. And Pastor David Lowery came on the show and was saying that, the illegals are getting arrested for crimes, and the police department's forced to let them out the back door, not counting them into the murder and the high crime stats because they don't want them to get picked up by ICE due to their official sanctuary status. So, yeah.
It's incredible. I love it when the left media says, immigrants commit crimes at a lower rate than native-born Americans. Number one, they don't distinguish legal and illegal immigrants. But then again, I come back and say, you have no idea that that's true. Why? Because in sanctuary cities, the police are forbidden from asking these perpetrators if they're here legally or illegally. It's a total farce. Hey, we got 7 seconds. Come back. We're gonna talk about interest rates. We're gonna talk about TikTok and other things. So be back with us on the right side.
The America First Ultra MAGA Store. For all your MAGA needs. We sell t-shirts, tumblers, flags, hats, sneakers, bumper stickers, and a whole lot more. The most patriotic America First retail store. The America First Ultra MAGA Store.
Good morning. It's me, Joe the Box, wearing my Border 911 hat signed by Tom Holman, Rodney Scott, and Sarah Carter. The country has had enough. The American Horror Story is over. Border 911. Tom Holman is coming through. My brother's son, my friends' children. We're done with it. 100,000 lost lives every single year. God bless you, Tom.
Are you a musician, comedian, actor, filmmaker, or artist who stands for traditional American values? Do you believe in the preservation of our nation, our culture, and our freedoms? If you share our passion for America and want to use your talents to make a difference, we want to hear from you. Our mission is clear. Through the arts, we uphold the principles of freedom, faith, family, and the American spirit. It's time to step up to the mic and make your voices heard. So contact us at AmericanConservativeArtists.com.
Freddie Rubino here at the America First Warehouse. I'm inviting you to the live taping of the Not So Newlywed Show. Just click on the QR code right above my shoulder and you can get tickets. Live taping of the Not So Newlywed Show. Drinks, snacks, it's a great time. We'll see you there October 18th.
The America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
America First Warehouse was really the most patriotic venue that you can ever imagine. We wanted to build something for people to be able to come to and feel so comfortable and so relaxed because there is nothing out there like it. We give an opportunity for people to really feel good about themselves and about this great country.
The America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
Hey, folks, welcome back to On the Right Side podcast. We're live here in the America First Warehouse on Long Island. We come to you every Wednesday at 2 p.m. With my co-host, David Zaire, who's on assignment in Washington, D.C., as he is so often. Hey, David, it's our last segment, and I told you I want to get into the interest rates, TikTok, maybe the shutdown, but I want to lead with this because I didn't mention it to you earlier, but it's really important news, and very few people read about it or know about it, okay? I just wrote an article to Newsmax on it. I'm a regular contributor there. There was the case in Michigan where, the so-called fake electors, okay? There's no such thing as a fake elector. There are alternative electors that were put up by the Trump administration.
Yeah.
The case was dismissed, and no one heard about it. And the judge said, hey, these people had a constitutional right to form a separate slate of electors, which, by the way, is protected within the Constitution and federal law. In fact, I wrote a big expose on this last year where I defended John Eastman, who was one of Trump's lawyers, who was a guest on our show way back when. And it was in 1876 that President Rutherford B. Hayes, who was then the candidate, lost the popular vote, but wound up winning the election because they challenged the results from various states. Then in 1960, John Kennedy challenged the results in Hawaii, and it actually got results reversed. He put in alternative electors. Never in the past were alternative electors called fake electors, as the Democrats and the media did this time, and never were alternative electors in the past prosecuted. These people were put through hell. They were bankrupted. Many of them lost their jobs. They were shamed, and now, poof, it's gone. The judge said, you guys had no right to this. And to paraphrase Ray Donovan, a former aide of President Reagan when he was exonerated, which office do I go to get my reputation back, right? But I had to point that out because it's gone. It was all bogus lawfare from the start, right?
Yeah, like you pointed out, Steve, the Democrats used the alternate electors, right? And they got away with it. I hosted the Eastman Dilemma at Mar-a-Lago, the movie premiere, and brought Eastman up to the warehouse with Joe, and he's terrific.
He's terrific, but the poor guy's been bankrupted. He's been bankrupt. The fact that Biden's people have brought charges against, like it's Giuliani and Eastman and so many other lawyers, just so they can shake them down and threaten them with bankruptcy. Okay, where do you want me to sign? I'll plead guilty.
That's what they do. Steve, Bernie Kerik told me before he passed, I was at an event at Bedminster, and we were talking about lawfare, and we were talking about the J6ers. First they come after you, then they come after your family, and then they bankrupt you into a plea deal. And that's the MO. Thank God Fannie Willis's case didn't be upheld, though, right? So
Right.
But that's
what
their
it was.
MO.
And
That's
Fannie
what they
Willis is the one who charged everyone. She charged all the different lawyers, and a lot of the lawyers, like Jenna Eastman, no, not Jenna. Jenna.
Yeah, no,
you know what I'm talking about. Jenna Ellis, and
she
a
used to
couple
be
of
on our
others.
network.
They just, and Sidney Crosby, I think it was. They just said, "Hey, what do you want? You just want me to sign that? Yeah, I did it. I'm guilty. Okay, leave me alone." They didn't suspend him. That's what they wanted. They just wanted to cower them and say, "We'll bankrupt you if you don't sign this." And a lot of them gave in, and Eastman and Chesbrough and others did not. So, kudos to them. That's a hard thing to do. Hey, let's shift gears here. Shutdown is looming in a month or so, couple of months. What do you think's going to happen? And I'm of the opinion, you might think I'm crazy, and I don't, according to your inside sources, the Trump administration doesn't want it, but I'm kind of, egging on the Democrats, go ahead. make our day. Shut down the government if that's what you want, because then you give the president extraordinary powers within that time period where he could start slicing and dicing where he couldn't ordinarily do it. What do you think? You think they're going to push the trigger, press the trigger this time? I think they're going to, because Schumer got burned last time.
Well, listen, the MAGA wing of the Republican Party is very angry, but from what I hear on the ground in D.C., is that Trump does not want to shut down. He does not want the midterms to be impacted. That's what people are saying. But you can't just throw a bill up there and say don't read it. The Democrats did that with the Obamacare, right? And 2,000 pages, and they do it the day before, and nobody reads it.
Yeah.
So. They're asking for accountability. There's like a war going on in Congress right now within the Republican Party.
Yeah.
To a degree. So I think in the end they passed the CR. It's an extension, I think, into November, right, Steve?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
But
how
I think it's going to
hit.
it's going to come to a head in November, December, and I think they're going to shut it down. I think the Schumer, I don't think is going to play that again unless he gets major concessions, and I don't think he's going to get it from a lot of the hardcore Republicans. And, in the past, David, the ones who were blamed for the shutdowns were the party out of power who tried to force it, as was the case, with the Republicans in the Clinton
But in
administration.
96, it worked. It forced Clinton to balance the budget and give the
But that
largest
wasn't a
tax cut in
shutdown,
history.
really. That really wasn't a shutdown. That
Wow.
was negotiated. Later, in the second term, there was a shutdown, and Gingrich and the Republicans got plastered for it, But
but the tactics worked, and I remember Long Island was in a recession from '87 to '94. We had the housing crisis, the finance scandals. We had in '87 stock market crash in '87, '89 the housing scandal, and then the peace dividend. And Long Island was out of business, and we lost 47% of our jobs were industrial jobs that were lost out of 250,000 jobs. I remember when the Republicans held Clinton hostage with that threat. The economy took off like a rocket ship.
Yeah, well,
I
they
was in the
cut capital
building
gains. They
Yeah,
put in place welfare reform. A lot of good things.
welfare reform also.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Hey, let me get to. I don't know how much if you're hearing any scuttlebutt on the TikTok deal. Okay, I still don't know where it's going. I haven't seen the details. They say they have an American buyer, but I'm hearing different things about the algorithm, and it's all about the algorithm. If you allow the Chinese to continue to possess that and control and promote that algorithm, what really have we gained? Have you heard anything further on that? I want it to be a good deal. I want to get, China out of the mix as a majority stakeholder, but that algorithm has to go. What are you hearing?
No, I know, yesterday it was a big deal, right? There's a lot of news agencies reporting on it. I don't know where that's going to go. I mean, listen, TikTok. Go on TikTok. It's awful.
Yeah. Well, that's why Congress, in a bipartisan fashion, said, we've got to stop this because it's the communist Chinese who are directing the propaganda through this outlet that is influencing our younger generation to hate America.
TikTok in China is more serious, I think. That's what I hear. It's different.
Yeah, well, they
Here-
control it and they censor it to their benefit.
Well,
Absolutely.
That too, of course. And they censor the free speech. But I think their intention here was to dumb us down to even dumber than we already were.
Oh, you got that right. Hey, 2 minutes left. Rate cuts today. I haven't heard. I think it might have happened within the hour we've been on the air.
Yeah,
I got to think it's a 0.25, right? It's a quarter point?
Yeah, it's a joke. It's a joke. We need 150 more basis points.
Yeah, that's
to
what Peter
spur the
Navarro's
economy the way
saying.
it needs to be.
Yeah.
I'm in the building business. A mortgage at even 5.5% doesn't work for a house that's $700,000 for a first-time buyer.
Or David, for a person who's locked in to a 3% mortgage rate,
Yeah.
you're not trading up. You're not moving.
They're not
If
gonna
you,
move.
Right.
But you know better than anybody how local government has raised taxes so much, a local, state, and national level. So, you know, in the taxes now on new construction on Long Island is $20,000 a year per house.
It's unbelievable.
So you add that on to a 6% mortgage, you're sunk out of the gate. Kids aren't gonna buy houses
I
till they're
don't know
45.
how in the world this younger generation is doing it, but we have to let the money start flowing.
I think
You know,
it's too late. I think it's too late.
well, you could always rebound. You could always rebound, but it has to be aggressive. And they're so consumed with inflation, they're forgetting that unemployment is starting to rise. We're starting to get it in stagnation. Public confidence in the economy is starting to sink. You've got to free up the money, as they have in Europe and around the world. We are the outlier.
Time.
You know. Listen, we got a minute left. What's going on with David Zare? What's happening in the upcoming week and things people should know about?
Well, I'll be leaving for Phoenix this weekend for the Charlie Kirk Memorial. It's going to be tens of thousands of people. The stadium holds 73,000 if it had to. It's going to be an epic event in a remembrance of Charlie Kirk, one of the greatest debaters of our generation.
Without a
And,
college degree,
always promoted peace. Always promoted peace.
He did. One of his greatest speeches, and I implore everyone to check it out. Get on TikTok. Look at his speech before a group of Brits in their tuxedos and all. And he lambasted them, not only the left, but the right, the conservatives within England who allowed this suppression of speech to go on. Hey, we got 20 seconds left. Folks, go to the America First Warehouse. We had a great program planned here last weekend with Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon and others. It was obviously postponed, but it will be rescheduled, so stay on that. Hey, David, thank you for joining us this week. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Steve Levy signing out for On the Right Side. We'll see you next Wednesday at 2.
Bye, guys.